everybody. This is Virtually Inspired, the show that is all about helping you up your game when it comes to virtual experience design and facilitation, whether you work with virtual meetings, virtual trainings, virtual conferences, or any kind of virtual gathering. My goal is to give you inspiration and practical tips so together we can change the landscape of virtual from awful to awesome. My name is Melissa Dinwiddie, and I infuse connection, joy, and delight into virtual trainings and events. I work with innovative, people-first organizations that are grappling with boring or non-existent virtual trainings or events to transform them into creative, interactive, playful experiences that attendees rave about because they learn new skills and behaviors while building connections and having a blast. So welcome. Today's guest is Shannon Hughes of Enlivened Studios. Shannon is an experiential facilitator with a calling to enliven the innate genius, creative resourcefulness, and easeful collaboration throughout business teams and cultures. In her practice, Enlivened Studios, I love that name, by the way, she brings strategic business mentorship and experiential teaching practices to break down cross-team silos and embolden transformational leadership. Shannon has over 20 years of corporate marketing and HR strategy experience, plus a lifetime of proven leadership, performance, and creative devotion. And through her work, she is on a mission to help people live fully, lead consciously, and impact the world with joy and collective aliveness. Welcome, Shannon. Come on the show. Yay! So great to have you here.
Thank you. Gosh, it was so lovely to hear you say all those things. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for having me today.
I have been so excited to have you on the show. So we have known each other for a while now through the Applied Improvisation Network. And I'm always just so excited when I see you in a room, which, you know, for the past going on 3 years, 2 years, what it's over 2 years, however long it's been virtual rooms. But I'm always so excited to see you in the room because I know that whenever you're there, you're going to be bringing something that I'm going to learn, like and you bring this wonderful energy, and which goes with the name of your business, Enliven Studios. You enliven the room. So I'm just delighted to have you here. And what I would love to hear before we dive into the activities, and I know you've brought some fabulous activities to share. I'm really curious, how did you get to, like, how did you get to where you are?
Yeah.
Just like the little thumbnail version of how you got to having your business.
Yeah. I mean, like I said in my bio, I've been a performer for a very long time. I love it. The stage is my happy place. And I found a way to bring performance into corporate when I was doing that work as well, in the form of business pitches, right? Or leading meetings or managing people and finding creative ways to do those things, which oftentimes we don't think of those things as creative. We don't think of them as performative, right? Because God knows, play and performance and creativity, may not have a place in business. Well, it turns out it does. So yeah, I mean, I always found that I was a number of roles at my organization that I was with for a very long time in corporate marketing, and just kind of kept holding on to those little bits of performance and creativity. And I was at a point in my career when my children were small a number of years ago, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. These 60-hour work weeks, phone calls to Asia Pacific on the sideline of the soccer field, that wasn't working for me. And so my employer was gracious enough to let me go part-time. I didn't leave the organization. I went part-time. And Melissa, you'll probably get a giggle out of this because you know me now. I was a financial operations manager for a while,
Wow.
which is let's just say that that's not my happy place. It did the trick. It was everything I needed so that I could be with my family and all that, but it worked until it didn't. And I decided to leave. And I, at the same time, took some classes at Bats Improv, Bay Area Theater Sports.
That's where I got started as well.
Yeah, awesome. With Rebecca Stockley and Laura Derry and everybody there. So, while I was deciding to leave my job and going back to improv, which I'd done when I was younger, I immediately saw those connections that I know you know. You know, I just looked at this room and I was doing these exercises and interacting in these certain ways and playing these games. And I thought, oh, this isn't just theater. This is life. This is
Yeah.
humanity. Right. And still being in the boardroom and being, you know, still entrenched in that corporate world, I could immediately apply what I was learning in improv to that. And for a hot minute, I thought I was like the only person who does this. And look at me, I figured it out. And then I realized, thank God, there's a global organization and thousands of people applying this work. So yeah, I launched the company a few years ago and here I am.
Oh, I love it. That is so cool. Wow. And
Yeah.
are you in the North Bay, San
Yeah.
Francisco North Bay?
Yep, I'm in Marin, just over the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not too far
Where my
away.
grandmother used to live.
Oh, fun. What
Yeah.
town?
San Rafael.
Okay, I'm in Larkspur.
My dad, here we are, people, we're talking like all things that like nobody watching is going to relate to this at all. But my dad grew up in Corte Madera and that area, Sausalito, and yeah.
Sweet. That's my backyard. Great.
Yeah.
Fun.
All right. Okay. So let's transition into, I know you brought some fun activities that work well virtually. So let's hear what you got.
Okay. Despite what I told you before we got on the call, I'm going to shift it up because I just thought of a new one that might be more
It's
interactive and
improv,
playful. On the
baby.
feed, on the feed. Okay, this one I love, and so it's called Life Story in 60 Seconds. Life
Ooh.
Story in 60 Seconds. And I should say, for those of us, so people watching, you know, you have to design these workshops. You can't just hit the crowd with something like this necessarily at the start, right? It takes a little bit of easing in with some other exercises that might be kind of icebreakery. And it's a great way for people to get to know one another. Anyway, and we'll do a quick debrief because I'm curious what else you have to say or take away from it. So this is how it works. I've got my little timer here. Let's clock, come on. Okay. So I will tell my life story in 60 seconds to you.
Okay.
I'm going to put my timer on here. For 60 seconds, I'm going to tell my entire life story.
Okay.
And after that 60 seconds, you're going to tell me your life story in 60 seconds. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tell one another's life story in first person.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And how about we do this because it might be a little easier. We do it. Let's just do one because I know we only have so much time. So I'll tell do you want to tell your life story? Does that sound easier? and I can be the one to relay it back.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. You go.
Oh
At
my
the
God.
count of
Okay.
3. Okay. Life story in 60 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
I was born, my brother almost, I got sick from my brother. I almost died. Oh my God. I became a dancer at 16. I went to Juilliard. I got injured and I had to stop dancing. And I went on to become an academic. I almost got a PhD, but decided not to. I became an artist. I pivoted and became a creativity instigator. And then, and I got married and I am a virtual experience designer. Woohoo!
Okay, now this is where the fun part comes in, or the scary part, depending on how you look at it. So now I'm going to introduce myself to the crowd, to the audience, to my fellow teammates as you.
Okay.
So, hi, my name is Melissa. I had a really troubling, I had to do it in 60 seconds. I had a really troubling start because I almost died from an illness that I got from my brother. But once I made it through that, everything kind of went up. I actually ended up at Juilliard, where I was a dancer. I was at Juilliard and I was a dancer, which my friend Shannon thinks is amazing, which we'll talk, she thinks that's very cool. And then as I continued to grow, I went into a career, and I forget a little bit about that career. But I made my way into to being a performer and an artist, and that's really where I shine. And I decided to blend my love of art with my love of business and supporting teams. And now I'm an experiential facilitator who teaches people how to make their meetings so much less boring and so much more amazing.
Yay! You made it sound so much better than I.
How did that feel? How did that feel on the storytelling side?
That was, first of all, oh my God, it's so hard to encapsulate a life into 60 seconds. I think maybe it would have been slightly easier to see the time clicking by so that I would have
Good point.
kind of known, like, okay, I have 15 more seconds to capture, which sort of high points do I want to put in there or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
I hear that.
that's like great, but it's crazy hard to put, decades of life into 60 seconds, right? Which of course that's hard, right?
Yeah.
There's something really amazing about hearing somebody else share back what just felt like, oh my God, that was a painful, hard experience to, like, obviously so much was left out,
Yeah.
of course.
Right.
And to have it shared back in this way that was framed not from, oh my God, so much was left out, that was lame,
Yeah.
but look at what an amazing life
Mhm.
I've led, and
Mm.
look at what an amazing person I am.
Mm.
Just flipping the frame,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's the lens that you're viewing it from.
Yes.
So that was my experience of having you introduce yourself as me
Yeah.
from those 60 seconds. That was very
Beautiful.
powerful.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. And, storytelling is so powerful. I use it in all my work. A lot of times I'll say, as a team, we are a collective of individuals, right? We are a team of people who do X, Y, and Z. We come to work, we do these things, but we're also individuals, and we all have our own stories to tell. And there's always going to be a universality in the particulars, right? So your story and my
Yeah.
story aren't the same, but I can identify with parts of your story, right? I can identify. I may not have been sick as a child, but I can identify with the grief and heartbreak, or the struggle that might have come with that. And there's so much power in getting people to sort of recognize those little, we are all kind of living the same, we're all kind of, we have different beats and different paths and different stories, but we all know how to kind of emotionally experience some of those same things. And I love that you picked up on that too, because when you're telling a story to somebody about yourself, the words are just words until it's the entire context of the story that you're creating in my mind that allowed me to then articulate it back to you in a way that you may not have expected.
Totally. Yeah. And hearing that's what's so powerful at this exercise, is hearing somebody else's perspective
Yeah,
on what I just shared. You know
exactly.
what it reminds me of, Shannon, actually, is several years ago, as an artist, I decided to, as part of my artistic creative practice, I
Mhm.
decided to start sharing what I was creating in my art studio
Yeah.
on Instagram,
Mhm.
regardless of what it was. It wasn't a case of, here's this beautiful finished thing that I've created that I want to impress you with.
Yeah.
It was a case of, here's the crap that I'm making in my studio that's not finished.
Awesome.
Every single day I would post something that was happening in my studio, regardless of what I felt about it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't finished. You know, it was like, this is the crappy thing.
Yeah.
And it was part of my practice. And it was really hard to do that at first, because it was like, oh, I'm hitting send. Oh, cringe, cringe. Oh.
Yeah.
And what was powerful for me about that practice, this is when my Instagram account was new, you know,
Right.
so I didn't know what was going to happen. It's not like I had a bunch of followers or anything.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
so interesting to me was that strangers who didn't know me from Adam, you know, it's not like I was famous or anything. They would take the time to lift their thumbs and hit the like button. And I was not, now I have to, be very clear that I was not putting it out there in order to get likes,
Right.
but, I would put it out there and let it go. Right. But there was something very powerful to me that there were people who would look at this crappy stuff that I was sharing and like it. And what that allowed for me was, it allowed me to take off my Gremlin glasses and put on neutral glass. Like, I could put on somebody else's glasses and look at my work through neutral lenses, which was very helpful because it allowed me to see my work through their eyes and have compassion for my work and see, oh, wow, they saw something of value there. Maybe there's something of value to see.
I
And
love it.
yeah, it was a very powerful practice for me. And, it's a very different thing to share your work with an expectation of, are you going to like it? Are you going to like it? Are you going to validate me? Are you going to validate me? And sharing your work and letting it go. And then noticing, oh my gosh, somebody's liking it. Maybe there's something to like. Right. And this, what we just did, this exercise that we just did, was a little bit of that same experience for me, because I did this thing and it was like, it was uncomfortable and it was weird. And I was like, oh my God, I left out, obviously 60 seconds. I mean, that was just, and then to have you reflect back what your perception of what you heard in such a different way was like, shifting the frame so much. It was a little bit like that Instagram experience for me.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And kudos to that, because, good is better than, sometimes good is better than, well, good is always better than perfect, because perfect is a complete ruse. There's no such thing as perfect. And sometimes good is better than completely done, right? You just kind of had to hit the send button and get it out there. And I love that too, because, it just demonstrates that I always think of well, I have a teenager, but I always think about just teenagers in general. You look at it a teenager and how awkwardly they walk down the beach or down the street because they think everybody's looking at them, and nobody's looking at them. Everybody's thinking about themselves. Everybody's thinking about themselves. They're even thinking about themselves in context to the teenager. I mean, that's how self-centered we are.
Totally.
And so, it's like, just hit the send button. Why not? Just hit it, and then it's out, and you might get 1,000 thumbs up. You might get one. And I love that too, because the people who are taking the time to give you a thumbs up are recognizing that social media oftentimes comes off as a highlight reel.
Yes.
And we don't live in a highlight reel. And so it's acknowledging that humanity. Oftentimes I talk about bringing humanity back to the workplace. I mean, we've just lost sight of what it means to relate on a human level. And look where it got us. Nowhere.
And that's so much about what this past couple of years has kind of opened up for us in this really strange, bizarre way, by forcing people to meet in their homes virtually.
Yeah.
Like, I can see, you just see this brick wall behind me, but I can see a little bit of this space that you have.
Yeah.
And people have their pets and their kids, and some of their humanity is
Yeah.
appearing that wasn't appearing when everybody was converging on the same office space together, right? So
Totally.
there's a little bit of permission to show humanity in a way that I hope we get to maintain
Yeah. Yeah.
as even as people do go back to office spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, that kind of leads me to another exercise that I sometimes do at more at the start of a workshop in order to sort of start to build some psychological safety and make people feel like we're not just these bobbleheads on the screen. Sometimes I joke, I'm like, see, like I have a foot, I have like elbows that go off the screen, yeah. And it doesn't mean that we have to have it doesn't mean that we have to have huge spaces. We could have a tiny little space or have a desk in a side of a closet somewhere. I mean, not everybody has the privilege of having large open space, but we do have bodies and we do have things very likely that are on our desk. And so sometimes in order to get people to feel like they're kind of cozying up together, if there's a workshop that calls for that, or at least for just some comfort, and as long as it's not, hundreds of people, oftentimes I'll say, okay, here we are in this space. It's a virtual space. You are there. I am here. Let's each bring something into this space that will kind of make it feel like we are connected in this space, even though we're really not. And then I often say, it can be something very practical, like a bottle of water. We need water. Or it can be something that's sentimental. And then I invite people to either get up out of their chairs and walk around the room and find something, or just reach for something like this. I have this. You can't see this, but I have this. And it opens
Oh,
up, and
oh,
it's just this little tchotchke that my mother-in-law gave me. And it's,
that is so cute.
yeah, I thought I would bring it into our space together, Melissa, because she and I have not always really seen eye to eye in a really connective way. And we're turning corners. And it was really nice that she
Oh,
gave this to me. So I put it right here. And so now we know
wow.
I'm going to bring this into our space together.
Well, then I'm going to bring this into our space together. So this is a Gremlin finger puppet, and I have this on my desk. Actually, it lives on top of in a pencil jar on top of a pencil, big
Yep.
fat colored pencil with multiple colors on the end of it.
Ooh, I love
You can see
that.
that. And the reason that I'm bringing it into our space is I lead these creativity retreats every
Yep.
year. And before the pandemic, I was leading them 3 times a year. And they're for creatives to get together and have 5 days to create
Awesome.
whatever their heart calls to them to create.
Mm.
And the thing about creating is that it's very easy to get mired in resistance. And there's always, voices in our head that say, you're not good enough, or, how can you spend time on this? You should be doing important things, or you should be making money, or you should be cleaning the house, or
Yeah.
whatever, all sorts of voices. And I call those voices gremlins, those nasty voices.
Ooh.
And the thing about the gremlins is that they're just trying to protect us. They're just trying to keep us safe,
Yeah.
but they're doing it in ways that are not very helpful. And
Yeah.
so what I like to do is to thank my gremlins for their concern and then send them off to get pedicures.
Amazing.
So this is a reminder, a continual reminder to be aware, just constantly be on the lookout for the gremlins, to discern when it's a gremlin and when it's the voice of truth, the voice of wisdom, or the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Because they like to disguise themselves.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm going to bring the gremlin into our space to help remind us to keep a lookout for those gremlin voices.
Thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because I've got those voices too. It turns out I also have those voices.
Go figure.
Go figure. I'm a human being and I have self-doubt. Whoa. Amazing. And so, yeah, you can kind of go on. I mean, I have a speaker, I always listen to music. I've got a cup of coffee here. So it can go on. And it's really lovely to see some people bring plants, or they show their dog, or they bring their sticky notes, or, it can be anything. And then as a facilitator, I kind of go around the room and I'll say, wow, so we have a gremlin, we have a seahorse now. Thank you for the cup of tea. We also have a speaker and some lovely lotion that we can smell. Like, can you guys feel this together? And then it kind of creates this, obviously we're not in the same space, but we are sharing an energetic space. And so how does that feel when we share with one another things that are not in view?
Love it.
Yeah.
So lovely.
Thank you. It's fun to do and it's very effective. People really, oftentimes I'm sure you know this too. You're like, okay, now we have to move on. We're having too much fun. We got to move on. Yeah.
So nice. I love that.
When you were talking a little bit about your creativity, I often say that creativity is innate. We are born creative. We always have that as a capacity to tap into. Creativity has a place in business, right? And I also think about this idea of aliveness. I think I mentioned this to you before we joined, but Howard Thurman, who is a theologian and who was a theologian and a activist and a mindfulness practitioner way before this time, said this amazing quote that I have on my wall, and I use it as a framework to teach around. And here's what it is. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and then go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Mic drop. Yeah, and it's funny. The more I used to kind of love it at the high level, and now I'm really dissecting, and I'm actually thinking about making, creating kind of a TEDx or a TEDx type of a interactive keynote, digging into what that means, and then applying improv into it, because it really ties into values. It ties into what is it that ignites us. It ties into like working in your zone of genius and recognizing how to help others on your team tap into their zone of genius. So I just wanted to bring up that quote because it's brilliant and delightful.
Yeah, I want to see that keynote when you've got it ready to go.
Yep, working on it.
You let me know.
I will.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's see. I've got this little ticker that shares where people can find you at Enliven Studios and Shannon Dean Hughes, all over the socials, as they say.
Yes. Primarily on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm kind of taking a little break from Facebook. So Instagram and LinkedIn.
You and me both, baby.
Yep.
The only reason I go up on Facebook is the
groups
that I belong to. And
me too.
I'm sadly absent from those lately just because
life.
You got to take a break.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
So every month I do a 1 hour long workshop. I call it a non-boring virtual meetings learning lab. It's called a lab, not a test, or I don't know what other word it might be. It's experimental, where I do, just like Shannon shared with us, some activities. I do very similar kinds of activities. Usually it's about 2 to 3 activities every month that you come away with that you can use right off the bat. You get to actually do hands-on over the course of the hour, and it's always around a particular theme. So this month, March, the theme is failure, mistakes, perfectionism, and how to bounce back from those kinds of things. So, and I've got some really fun activities planned. So come join me. And if you've never been to a learning lab before, you can come to your first one for free with the code FIRSTTIMER. So come join me. And there is the link right down there, bit.ly/monthly lab, capital M, capital L. It is case sensitive. So come join me at the next learning lab. And I do these again every single month.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Shannon, it has been such a great pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to have you back anytime, and tell me one thing you're looking forward to.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm looking forward to I'm doing for an organization based here in the Bay Area. It's called CVNL, Center for Nonprofit and Volunteer Leadership. And I'm doing a 3-hour session for them as part of a 5-part series about management essentials. So we're going to be
Ooh.
covering things around motivating employees, intentional listening, expressing curiosity instead of advice giving. And yeah, so we're going to be touching on all those things over a 3-hour session, and I'm really excited about it. It's really well designed, and it's been kind of blessed by the client, and we're ready to go.
Wow, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, be good.
Well, it's been just a delight and a pleasure having you, Shannon, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Applied Improvisation Open Space, and
Yep,
we'll
yep.
hopefully have you on another one of these another time.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Melissa. I'll see you
Thanks
soon.
so much. Thanks for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to get video updates. Thanks.